Hi Math Pals, welcome to Mickey Mouse's Clubhouse. Here today, teacher Minnie Mouse will be teaching you about rational functions. Yes, those fancy fractions with polynomials. But hey, don't worry, we'll take it step by step. And by the end, you'll be graphing like a pro. Are you ready? Let's go! So, first of all, let's remember what a rational function is. It is basically a fraction in which both the top number, or the numerator, and the bottom number, or the denominator, are both polynomials. For example, we have the parent rational function, which is y equals 1 over x. But we can have more complex things. For example, y equals 2x to the third power plus 5 over x squared minus 1. For instance, these are both rational functions. Three key things to know when graphing rational functions are x-intercepts, vertical asymptotes, and horizontal asymptotes. For the x-intercepts happen when the numerator, or the top part of the fraction, is equal to 0. So for example, if in this equation we solve for x will be equal to plus or minus 1, because if we substitute, the top part will be equal to 0. Then the vertical asymptote is like an invisible wall. In this invisible wall, the denominator, or the bottom part, is going to equal to 0. So if we solve for x over x squared minus 4, we get x is equal to x of plus or minus 2. Because after substituting into this, the denominator will be equal to 0. And finally, the horizontal asymptotes, which have three cases. The one in which n is less than m, y is going to be equal to 0. When n is equal to m, y is going to be a over b of n. And when n is greater than m, there will be no horizontal asymptote. So for example, we have in this one the second case. So after solving for y, we get 4 over 2, which is equal to 2. And that's the horizontal asymptote. Now let's go more into solving and actually graphing rational functions. Okay, let's try to graph this. F of x equals 6 over x squared plus 1. So first of all, we have to check the 3 points I gave you before. X-intercepts. The numerator is equal to 6. 6 is never equal to 0, so there are no x-intercepts. Then, the vertical asymptotes. The denominator, when we try to equal the denominator to 0 and solve, there are never real solutions. So there is no vertical asymptote. And finally, the horizontal asymptote. As I said, it depends on the degrees of the polynomial. So, since the degree of the numerator is less than the degree of the denominator, y is going to be equal to 0. Now, in order to determine the shape and form of the graph, we can plot some points. For example, -3, 0.6, around there. Or, for example, -1, 3. -1, 3, there. And also, for example, we can graph 0.6. And finally, 0.6. Then we can connect those points. And the graph goes on infinitely. And this is our graph. Okay, let's now tackle a little bit more difficult problem. F of x equals 2x squared over x squared minus 9. That we need to graph. So let's remember that we need to follow 3 main steps. First, the x-intercept. For the numerator, the 0 would be 0. So 0 is an x-intercept. Now for the denominator, x squared minus 9, after solving we get plus or minus 3. So x equals -3 and x equals 3 are vertical asymptotes. And for the horizontal asymptotes, since the degrees of the numerator and denominator are the same, y is equal to a of m over b of m, which is equal to 2 over 1, which is equal to 2. So now we can draw our asymptotes. First we have negative 3, comma 2. Negative 3, comma 2. So we can draw a line that goes through negative 3 and negative 2. And then 3, comma 2. So we can follow this same line and pass this through 3. And those are our asymptotes. Now we have to plot points between, beyond, and the vertical asymptotes. So let's do that. Using the table, I determine these two numbers to the left of x equals negative 3, these 3 in between negative 3 and x equals 3, and this 2 to the right of x equals 3. So, after solving in this equation, we get these values. And we plot the points. So, we have negative 5, comma 3.1, negative 4, comma 4.6, negative 2, comma negative 1.6, 0, comma 0, 2, comma negative 1.6, 4, comma 4.6, and 5, comma 3.1. What do we do with that? We draw and connect the curves. So this curve would be going this way. This next curve will be like this. And finally this one. So if we were to stretch the graph, we would see that all of these lines would go closer and closer and closer to the asymptotes, but they would never touch it, which is the point. So this is the graph of 2x squared over x squared minus 9. Pals, that was it. Now you're ready to graph any rational function. You can try it yourself in the quizzes below, but always remember these 3 steps. First, find the x-intercepts by sending the top to 0, find the vertical asymptotes by sending the bottom to 0, and find the horizontal asymptotes by looking at the degrees and following the rules for each case. See you next time.
Problem solved.